Hi, my name is Juana Chambers Lawson. I'm the PMO CEO at Tacit Strategies, and you are watching P3 on Rise Above TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and I cannot tell you how pumped up I am because today we have the fabulous Juana, the PMO CEO, Chambers Lawson of Tacit Growth Strategies. This lady is doing some major moving and shaking in the city of San Antonio, and I know that she's doing things in other places too. I can't wait to get her take on power, passion, and purpose. You're the epitome of P3. Thank you so much for being with us today, Luana.
Thank you so much.
You have a presence to you. You know what's coming to my mind? This is pretty crazy. I've never seen this before. If a ballerina and an oak tree had a baby.
That's excellent. Okay, look, I'm glad we're recording this because that's something I'm gonna have to replay for everybody.
Right? Hey, I'll use this if you're cool with it. Anyway, I know that you have an incredible story. Where did you grow up?
That's actually it's a tough question for me to answer because I'm a military, kid, but my dad got paralyzed while he was serving. So, my moving around wasn't so much because of the military, it was more so because of his disability and us trying to, basically get our footing. And so I grew up, home would be Richmond, Virginia. That would be home.
Okay.
But, as you know, when you've lived in many different places, even when you go back home, you still don't feel like you belong there.
Yeah.
When I go back, they're like, "You're from New York." I'm like, "No, I'm not from New York. I'm from here." But thank you so much, for trying to make me feel like I don't belong. I feel it now. But yeah, my dad is paralyzed. So when I was about 4, that was the biggest, I think, in terms of deciding my purpose. That's the anchor in my story is that we had a car accident while my dad was he was stationed at Camp Pendleton in San Diego, California, and he was actually going to my mother's sister to go help her out because she was also married to a Marine at the time, and she was in a pretty bad relationship. And so my father and my mother took it upon themselves to want to go and support her. And so they traveled from California to Virginia to go and visit my aunt and try to help her, get out of a really bad situation. And it just so happened on the way to see her, we hit, black ice on the interstate. And my dad, broke his neck, severed his spinal cord. And then my mother was ejected from the truck. So she was about an inch away from falling into the James River. Thank God we found her when we did, because she was just one tumble away and we would have lost her forever. And after that, I was legally declared an orphan because both of my parents were in, comas for months after that. So the Ronald McDonald House, those volunteers there, they read to me, they used to bring me chicken nuggets for dinner every night. And I was there for a few months. And I just remember I don't have any negative experiences from the Ronald McDonald House when I was staying there. And, so till this day, I give back to Ronald McDonald House in Richmond, Virginia, and the one here in San Antonio, Texas, because I've witnessed the one here do very similar work. It's just the people that they have there that volunteer, they really, they give of themselves.
Yeah, they care. You can feel that genuine care. That's so lovely. Yeah, I think that's so important. And it really does shape a child too. Like that's a lot of trauma. And when you have caretakers that hold that sort of loving energy, it helps with the trauma a little bit, but still nonetheless, it was difficult time for you for sure.
Yeah. And so my dad got out of that. When he came out of his coma, it was around the same time as my mother. So then we were able to we moved into an apartment in Richmond, Virginia, because my dad and my mother were at the Veterans Hospital in Richmond, McGuire. And once they, got better, we had an apartment right there off of Carnation Road. And that apartment is, where I met the woman that taught me how to swim. She was a resident there at the apartment complex. Her name was Beth. And she would spend hours with me doing the homework and all kind of stuff every day. Very nice woman. And then, I spent a lot of time the compensated work therapy department at the VA did a lot. Their people also helped raise me. So, you look at a lot of the people that I still call my aunts and uncles today, who some of them have most of them actually have passed on. Those people were paralyzed veterans. They were people who were quadriplegics, people who, were burn victims. And they were the ones I would go to the VA and I would read to them and I would help feed them. And, so those are the people who really made me who I am today. And ever since then, you've always seen me doing the most. I'm always volunteering somewhere, doing what I love and not worrying about where the money is going to come from.
Yeah, it seems like even in those difficult times, I don't know if you believe in a higher power or God, but it was like you were always being given almost like a guardian angel, a being here that was going to give you that extra love and attention and assistance, so that you could do what you're doing now. And you were around so much altruism and people that, really kind of exerted that humanitarian perspective and outlook on life and that you give. So, thank you for everything you've done. I'm sure, even just you giving back to the Ronald McDonald House and stuff. And that's really what life's about. It's about being able to give and receive. Have you gotten to a place of being able to receive as much as you give and being able to give to yourself in a way that you can like take care of yourself? Because when people like you are doing all that they're doing, gosh, sometimes it's hard. Like you want to help others. And then when you need help, you're like, oh, and I'm just curious, like, are you comfortable in that space?
I think that it is, I'm not going to say it's a very uniquely American thing, but I think coming up, my family is very diverse culturally. So like self-care is very, it means something, I think, different for me because of the just the makeup of who I am. You know what I mean? Like I can't sit down long. Like self-care is the poor. Like for me, that's the poor, right? Because I wouldn't be who I am today if people really practice self-care the way they're supposed to, right? Like if I was surrounded by people who were like, you know what? I have a work-life balance. I'm off work right now. It's 5:00. I'm off. I'm going home with my kids. There would be nowhere. I wouldn't have eaten that night. I wouldn't have had someone there with me to read a book, read me to sleep. That person wouldn't have been there because they would have been like, you know what? I got my own life. I got my own kids. I need to go take care of myself. I'm out.
I like that you're touching on this like other perspective, because that word alone, self-care and self-love, they're really misunderstood. And I get the point that you're making. That selflessness is so beautiful and we need that. What does self-care then mean or look like for you that feels good to you?
For self-care, I think it's the norm of making sure I get my 6 hours, right? I make sure I get my 6 hours of sleep. I do a lot of pampering when I'm home. I like to take time to kind of, tweeze my eyebrows and I like the sort of beauty skincare, taking stuff like that. All it is just taking time for yourself. That's like just for you, but minus any guilt. Yeah, like take your shoes off. I go outside to the backyard. I'll go outside and I'll just, my husband and I kind of like to garden. Like that's a thing that we like to do together. And we'll just go outside and, we'll play with the lavender or we'll play with the thyme. I mean, you have to take the time to just do nothing, and just have, nothingness is excellent. That's how you really, because people suffer from anxiety real bad now. And I know for a minute there, I was telling people at a meeting with a friend yesterday, and we, it was like 6 of us all together. We were all bouncing off of each other, energy wise, and the conversation was excellent. But people had their phone on the table, or they had their phone like in their lap. And I said, if you don't mind, put your phone away, because I get anxious when I see a phone.
Yeah.
Like if I'm sitting in a group of people and you have your phone out, I need you to put it away, because it makes me think about what I'm supposed to be doing, or who I need to be responding to, or, oh, is my dad okay? Maybe this is a call about him. Is my mom okay?
Yes.
So if I see the phone, I'm like, but if I don't see the phone, I feel okay. So I'm like, just put it away, just put the phone away. Let's just be here in this moment. Forget about the time. Just let's just be here together. So I think that's another type of self-care too, is just really kind of taking time to not think about time, just right. Like time's not a thing right now. Just move it along.
Yes. It's almost, you're describing presence and mindfulness, in that like your mind, your body, everything is all here right now. And being able to do that consistently, like really bringing relaxed, focused attention, I kind of call it, is really good for your brain. I love that you brought up the gardening, because grounding and earthing is really good for you. So it's like putting your hands in the dirt and just being one with nature is very good for our cardiovascular system and our neurology. And the other thing is nothingness. I've been talking so much about nothingness, girl. You got me so excited. No one's really talked about nothingness on P3. This is season 3. So I don't know if there's anything else that you want to touch on nothingness.
And this is why the nothingness matters, is when you are going, you're in these situations, especially these abusive relationships, you end up finding yourself going in and out of them often, really because of the fact that you don't have the time to, like, you're not making the time to sit back and actually take inventory of who you are and the magic of who you are, just your existence, not what you do for people. And my problem was that, all my life I've been a worker, and most of my relationships, and I didn't realize that until I got into abusive relationships and came out of them, was most of my relationships were based on what I could do for somebody else. And that was family, friends. It was all kind of people in my life that I thought really loved me and really cared for me, but they didn't. They cared for what I could do for them. Mm-hmm. But that went straight into my relationships. And so the people that I was dating, I was, they were talking to me any kind of way, treating me any kind of way, in public, in private. And it got to the point where the reason why I met my husband was because, one of my friends, she was like, hey, you need to start dating online. You're beautiful. You got a lot to offer. You should have a whole lot more going on for yourself on the dating side. Like, just go online. So I started, I had my profile. I met Chris, and we met. And I think the first night we were together for like 10 hours. Like, that's how long we stayed together. We were just shutting places down. And
I love those connections. Yes.
Telling you, no sex, just straight up conversation and just a lot of nothingness. Like, we were at one spot and it had a swing, and we just sat on the swing and held hands for like an hour or so and didn't say anything. I mean, we just sat there and we just looked up at the stars and, we just chilled, had our little drink, what I'm talking about? Get your spirit.
Yeah.
Enjoy your spirits. You know what I mean? And so he started kind of like coming over to my place all the time. And when he was coming over, because I used to like to cook for him. And, the guy that I was that I had finished dating, he would still pop up too. So it just so happened that one night my ex was at my place and Chris popped up. And I was trying to get rid of my ex, but this guy, abusive relationships, they don't want to let you go. Mm-mm. And so Chris was there, and Chris met him, and Chris was like, you should not be in the picture. You are not even close to touching her. Why are you here? And looked at me and was like, why is he here? Right? And he was like, you deserve so much better. And it was that moment where I woke up and I was like, you know what? You're damn right. I deserve better, right? And that's when I kind of like came out of my shell, and that's when I started to say to myself, you can manifest all that's in your mind. You can manifest it. You can have it. And I did, because I heard, you people tell you that all your life,
I know.
but you don't really believe it until you do it. And I did it, and I manifested this relationship with Chris. I manifested this because I wanted to make sure that he felt and he feels as safe and supported as I feel in this relationship. Because to me, this relationship has been the most liberating, freeing time that I've ever had in my life. I have never felt so free, so liberated, so empowered. You know, it whatever I want to manifest, I can. I never felt that before. Never.
That's incredible. So it sounds like you've really designed a life that is fulfilling. And when you feel fulfilled, you get good sleep.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't slept so well in a long, long time, because before I met my husband, I was abusive relationship after abusive relationship.
I call that mindful love. It's a love that, and I actually have an acronym for SAFE. I have this thing called the safe communication method because I do relationship coaching, and y'all have built a safe, real relationship, REAL. And that A stands for that authenticity. And you can't have that without vulnerability and humility. And you both have that. The time was right. It was the right kind of man. You're the right kind of woman for each other to just be able to lift each other up and create that foundation so that you can bloom, because when you're with the wrong person, it's hard enough to light your own light, but to be around somebody who, and granted, we cannot count on others to light us up. We have to light ourselves up from the inside, and we have to find other people that understand what that looks like. And I want to commend you too for just touching on when you were talking about that sort of scarcity mindset and that type of abusive energy that you were taking, and the lack of reciprocity, the mutual respect in relationship that you were seeing was conditional. And that's all people pleasing stuff and codependency stuff that at our core needs to be healed so that we can change our mindset and our belief structure. So thank you so much for sharing that with me or with our viewers and touching on that subject. What were some of the healing modalities? It sounds like this relationship was so, what's the word? I was going to say it was just so healing on so many levels that maybe there wasn't a whole lot of other things. Now, granted, the gardening and all that stuff is just naturally very healing for people without them even knowing it. But was there any type of therapy or anything specific that you sought out to assist you with healing your mind and your mindset and all of those things that were keeping you in that state?
I have had this natural fear of seeking out therapy for a very long time. And, some of the closest people in my life had gone back to school and become licensed counselors and, mental health therapists and things of that sort. And I just knew them a little too well.
Yes.
And it kind of messed me up. I was like, I don't know.
And then know them. You're like, well, because we all coaches and therapists have their own crap. You're like, I don't really know if I want to be opening up to you or just kind of yeah, that makes total sense.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a fear, and I think now I'm way more open to it. So now, I've talked to a therapist recently, and I haven't kept my appointments, but I actually did reach out, and I enjoyed the conversation, that we had. But
right.
I think for me, it's the way that I've sort of come to get to this place is not really a healing process. It's been more of a move on. It hasn't been healed, right? I can't call it healing because I haven't had a very I haven't had a moment where I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to address this. I'm going to address this emotionally. I'm going to get this out, and I'm going to work on the next steps. I
Wow.
haven't had that.
Okay, so this is really interesting. This conversation is getting even juicier now because I it's so it just goes to show you that somebody can, the work that you're doing and the joy that you exude and everything that, like, that's like a thing. It's a real thing. And you've been able to do it. Again, I think I have to attribute it to the real part of it, not all of it, because I don't know how much of what you did and built and started doing before you met him, and then he just like, oh, like took it to the next level, or if it's really, it started with him. But I do think that that's been a core part of why you've been able to be who you are. That's why I can understand why y'all love each other so much. And I can only imagine that whatever this journey you go on, and that you kind of really go to the core and maybe heal some things, if that's even a thing that you feel like is important. I mean, you're basically, the reason why I'm at a loss of words, right? Like loss for words, is because I can only imagine what you will do and what will come out of you when that stuff is actually clear, like for the real skis. But you're doing a really awesome job of living.
Thank you.
Despite that being there, like seriously, you have your power. And even though you haven't dealt with that deeper stuff, how do you describe your power then? Where do you feel you get your power from? And yeah.
I think that the power comes from the unhealed parts, right? I think that's where
that's the fuel.
Yeah, because it's the thing where it's like you can't. For me, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't heal it because I can never really adequately address it, because the people that I would need to have a conversation with to get closure are either dead or they're just not
in a state to be able to hold space for that kind of conversation.
Because it's like you were saying, when you're like the Maya Angelou of the family, and people are calling you Oprah and all, if the Oprah comes to you and says, you know what, you hurt me real bad, and I want us to address this and I want to talk about this. How realistic is it? You know what I mean? Like you can't. It's just true. It's not it's not something that I wouldn't want to put that actually on some of these people, because I'm seeing them now. They're much older and they're,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not something that I want to.
It's almost like a can of worms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and you're like, what's the point? But it's more for the energetics of yourself, because it could be that your inner child, there were things where she wasn't seen and heard and or understood or felt. And if that happens, she doesn't feel safe. But you being the adult you now, knowing what you know, you can, from an energetic standpoint, because remember, time, what's time? The fact that we can pull up memories and go backwards and forwards, and I mean, that is like, what? That's amazing. So you going back in time with somebody assisting you in a way that feels safe and good to you, you'll be able to deliver her messages and give her the TLC and the T and the TLC that no one else could give her back then. And believe it or not, that does absolve you in the present without you having to talk to them.
Okay.
Just like, and you get to, like, in your mind, recreate, like, if you need to say something to those people, there's multiple ways you can do that, whether you do it with yourself or in an actual therapy session, just so that that little girl's voice inside of you can finally express her pain. So I'm kind of just speaking from experience. So anyway, so I know kindness is one of your superhero powers. Power, passion, purpose. Your work, you're doing all of them. They all interconnect. What else could you say about, like, passion or any kind of advice that you give people on these words here?
I would say for passion, remember that it's controllable. It's something that you can manipulate. And I think that, I was talking because, I teach graduate students and undergrad. at Our Lady of the Lake and University of Incarnate Word. And one of the things, I've got 3 courses this semester, and I love the courses. I tell people all the time, the reason why I'm successful as an entrepreneur is because of being the adjunct professor and also being the volunteer, the director on the board of Texas Kidney Foundation and, World Lowly Incorporation and all these other places. That's really what makes me who I am, because when I'm in class, especially, and I'm grading an assignment and I see that I got a student that's really passionate and they're really dug in on a topic, I tell them, take a step back. Remember that you're in grad school. So it's about research, challenging yourself, not research and confirming biases. And I think that when we get so passionate about something, we forget that we are the ones, we have to check ourselves, manipulate that. We have to challenge ourselves. That's the way that we manipulate that passion, challenge, constantly be looking for some sort of different perspective. It's not about, looking for a pro and a con all the time. People like to make everything binaristic. It's not so binary. Right. It's not about pro con. It's about, think about your passion from the perspective of where it sits in multiple contexts. Where does this passion fit in ESG? Where does this passion fit in climate change? Where does this fit in, this in Christianity and in these different denominations? And
right, because then we get into that radicalness where it's like there's no discernment, right? And so it's like, yeah, and discernment is everything.
It's everything. It's everything. That's the control. Just an example of this, just from a business standpoint, right? Passion. When I first started Tacit Growth Strategies in 2018, we ended up getting a lot of firsts in that year. So we had the, random announcement from the publishers at O Magazine and Entrepreneurs, a double feature. They call out of nowhere in September. We started the company in January. I was still working full time as a district grant administrator at Edgewood ISD, and loved my job. Didn't really have any full intention of leaving it. But this was the motivation to leave. When I got the call, because we had already had a client, so I was working full time there, and I had a client that was downtown San Antonio, was working on, children with cancer. So we had all kind of success in just from the months of January to the summer. We had all kind of crazy successes, right? So the call from and Entrepreneur that happened in September was my motivation to be like, oh, well, maybe I should just do this full time, right? So did the company full time. And when I decided to do the company full time, I got a call from Gronkowski Charitable Foundation, and they were saying, hey, we have this African American Museum initiative in San Antonio. It's the first of its kind. It's got partners. UNC Chapel Hill is a partner. The Mellon Foundation in New York is a partner. We really want to take this and make it successful. Will you be the president and chair of the board or be a consultant? And so I go, I meet the board. I love the people. And I'm like, we can make a lot more happen if I'm the president and chair. Because I said, things as a consultant, I can make a lot of recommendations to you. And you can basically tell me to,
yeah.
Right. But I said, if I'm president and board chair, I can make sure that we do the right thing. So, because that was the chief justice in me. People forget I was chief justice of the student body at VCU. So I know all my parliamentary procedure and Robert order. So, and ended up serving in that capacity. So I was running the African American Museum. We didn't have a phone number or email or website, budget. We didn't have anything. So I was running SACAM and Tacit Growth Strategies at the same time. And you look at SACAM today, multi-million-dollar organization. It's got international press.
Yeah,
and
accolades and yeah.
It's insane. It's insane, right? We hired our first executive director president, who was Deborah Mawale Jarman, kicking booty till this day. She's amazing. Okay. So I'm just saying. So I walked away. I resigned from SACAM after I hired Deborah. We had a couple of months to where I could, make sure that she had everything she needed to be successful and hire more people.
Right.
So I walked away under a really awesome situation for Deborah. And then when I went back to Tacit, I said to myself, okay, what was the whole point and purpose of doing that? Well, you're passionate about African American history and storytelling and placemaking, especially because of all of this displacement that's taken place and all the gentrification and all the lack of home ownership and things of that sort. So that is your way of trying to do your part, right? So you did that. Good job. What are you going to do now with Tacit Growth Strategies? How is Tacit going to help make sure that the legacy that you've set here is continued? Okay. Well, Tacit Growth Strategies is now on the board of the African American Chamber of Commerce of San Antonio, where I'm the procurement committee chair. And in that capacity, I'm able to make sure that other Black-owned businesses get in front of procurement opportunities, right? So now you got all these Black-owned businesses that are getting in front of these opportunities, didn't even know that they existed, didn't know how to prepare for them. And Tacit Growth Strategies is here to make sure that they get that support.
That's incredible. And it's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected. And this is the other thing I love about P3. And when people share their stories, you get to see how the past all interconnects even in the present. How your life struggles and challenges and obstacles, and then even all the random jobs that you've had or the people that come in your life ultimately are there on the back end, on the undercurrent, as this starts to really come to full fruition. And I think that's one of the good things sometimes about getting older, because people are always like, oh, getting older, but then you got that reflection, I think it's so cool. This is such an amazing story. And I love too how you really had to own yourself in a certain way to have the confidence. Like you have to have a certain self-esteem, self-worth, and self-belief. And the fact that you had mentioned being a people pleaser, that's one of the reasons why we're able to be taken advantage of, because we never quite fully understand our worth. So, you have to have that to go in and be like, look, I can do this, but if you make me this, and you really wanted to make an impact and you understood the positions that you need to be in to help the people in the way you wanted to, and like in a bigger way. And you freaking made it happen.
To make sure that the money went as intended, because you get a lot of people who are very selfish in these positions of leadership, and it's easy. You're dealing with one of the top funders, philanthropic foundations in South Texas, right?
Wow. Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think about how much we were bringing in on a monthly basis. I could have easily been shaving off a few thousand and nobody would have blinked, right?
Yeah, and you hear about that stuff all the time, but you really care about integrity,
I'm a person who's very kind by nature, and I care a lot about, if I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna do it well. And that, for me, it's about the legacy. It's about pride, because I, knowing who I am today, know that I come from a legacy of top dogs. On my matrilineal sides, on both sides of the family, and my patrilineal sides, those people were excellent people, ministers, pharmacists, scientists, musicians, entrepreneur, business owners. We have some of the first women who ever owned businesses in this country on my patrilineal side, on my father's side. Yeah, it was forbidden. It was not legal for them to own entire, I'm talking like buildings, properties, residential properties. They owned it. They owned the real estate and had tenants, corporate tenants and residential tenants.
So super savvy. And I love everything that you listed. There's so much diversity within that too. And that's like running through your veins, girl.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling you. Like, you have to make, and that's why I think for the African American Museum, I was so attracted to it in San Antonio, because that is the story of African Americans here. They're Mexican, they're Comanche, they're Puerto Rican, they're Salvadorian. They have a lot going on, and that is really truly the story of my family. We got everything: Dominican, El Salvador, Haiti, India. My father's side of the family is mostly from India. So Pakistan, I mean, we got it all. So, when I look at what African American Blackness is, that's how I define myself. I want to be able to make sure that we tell the story of people who we don't, because we look at them and we say, oh, you're just, they're just Black. We don't know that their grandmother was from France, and was a badass from France, right? Like, we don't know their story.
Yes,
So
man.
But that's what changes things, right? Like, once you start to hear that, you start to look at people and you start to, like you were saying before, move past the media story of, oh, well, you're not the same. You start moving past that because you start to realize that there are people that you walk by every day who probably have more in common with you genetically than not.
Exactly. And that's another thing that's going to help heal, I feel. I feel like there's that word civil in civilization is lacking. There's a civility, and that we need to like bring back. And a lot of it has to do with that, being able to see past these stories and our skin color and know that each person has so much history in them that even we're not like aware of. And I think it's really cool too. If I'm not mistaken, when you were giving that really great tool for people to really analyze passion and do sort of a self-analysis and take inventory, and you were kind of giving a little bit of that guidance there, that when you were saying, I love storytelling, I love history, I love blah, 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 did you do that and then that opportunity came to lead this organization? Because it touches on all of your passions.
That's why it was so weird that it happened the way it did, because I had just finished up with Edgewood, and then I had just finished my client at the time. I was a PMO for her, project management office for her too, but we were specifically focused on grants. So it was grant management PMO, but it was enterprise level. So it was a temporary gig. It was only going to be 10 months. So I was coming up on the 10 months when I got the meeting to lead SACAM, to lead the African American Museum. But it wasn't because of that. It was because before all of those, I was president of the Project Management Institute here.
That's what I mean. So I think I was getting it confused in my head about the order. Okay, I got you. I got it.
So they see like, okay, this is a person who knows how to run an organization and make sure that they have their budget, fiscally sound.
Right.
Have a good mix of leaders, because I'm not a superficial person. I don't care what your titles are. If you want to sit on the board and you have a lived experience or some sort of something that you want to contribute, let's have you on the board. Let's put you to work, and let's also value your work, value it accordingly, so that when we need to remunerate or whatever we need to do to make sure that we say thank you properly for your contributions, for your time, for your expertise, we are building that in place. Like we built our budgets at the African American Museum to make sure that we were paying the people that we needed to pay for consulting, community scholars, just some of the elders in the community. We budgeted to pay them for their time. It wasn't like, hey, can you come here and tell me all about the East Side for free? And I'm gonna go take you to Tony G's real quick and get you some soul food. We will take you to Tony G's, but we're gonna also give you a check for your time.
And I love that you said that too, because it goes back to your abundance attitude. Everything you do, it's like we need to take care. The other day I watched this video about I think it's called the 8th principle. It's called the generative principle, and it's about caring. Like, what does that mean to care for self, to really care about somebody else, to care about nature, to care about your community, you know what I mean? Just to care. And there's like this lack of care, and it's really powerful. There was like a connection that I was making. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, it was about compensation. It's divine compensation. Like, let's pay the people, because at the end of the day, they're going to produce better work when we respect their time, energy, and attention.
That's right.
And so that's really awesome. And I love that you're like that. And that's another reason why you get blessed with these amazing opportunities and ability to help people, because whatever you want to call that's bigger than us, that has a hand in this whole entire thing, it sees and it senses, we'll say, right? It can sense energetically what it is that you're doing. And so that it continues to provide for you so that you can provide for others.
Yeah, because I tell people all the time, I'm not interested in being a billionaire. That's not my interest. I don't want to have any bills. Like if I
Right,
could picture my perfect future, I wouldn't have any bills because all the people that I've taken care of are taking care of me.
right. And that goes back to simplicity. That's another word that I love. That's another part of the nothingness. You start to realize what do you actually need to be happy and joyful. And it's okay to want nice things and to be able to travel and stuff like that. But when you start to get an understanding of like your health is your wealth and how to generate wealth in a way that's like for real, just with effortlessness. And then you start just needing less and less. You value things more. It's a really interesting transformational process, and it really does benefit us to live in this manner. What's like the main thing right now? Any new things coming up on the horizon?
A few things that are coming up in the months of July and August. But I would just say for folks to stay in touch and actually keep up with it is to just subscribe to our newsletter on our website. We do use MailChimp. So on our website at the bottom of the site, it has the email archive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you click on that button, you can actually click on where it says subscribe and you'll be able to keep up with our newsletters. If you type in Tacit Growth Strategies, it'll come up in case you forget, but it's growthistacit.com. And that's TACIT, tacit as in the opposite of explicit. And the other thing is to make sure you like us on social. We put everything on social media. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. So make sure if you type in Tacit Growth Strategies, you'll see us come up. We'll be either the TGS, the PM firm, or we'll be there under Growth is Tacit, which is our tagline.
Excellent. Any last words here as we go ahead and wrap this beautiful episode up?
I would say to remember to take your time, because I feel like there's a lot of FOMO, there's a lot of fear of missing out happening nowadays. No one's going anywhere. Those followers will be there. Those likes will be there. Take your time and just settle in and take your time. I would say that most of us need to hear that we are enough and that we don't need to be trying to push for things that are going to come in their own time and space anyway. You're attracting abundance. Just keep doing what you got to do and the abundance will come to you. You're already attracting it. So just keep going.
It's like you have to believe that you are it.
You are it.
You are abundance.
You are abundance. You are. You are.
I want to thank you again for just everything that you've done to help people and all the work that you'll continue to do to build the legacy of love. Really is what you're doing within all that you're doing, for organizations and individuals and families and communities. It's a hefty mission and a hefty vision, but clearly you have all the ancestral blood that you need to get it done. and a badass husband. So kudos to you. What's his name again?
Christopher Lawson.
Christopher Lawson. I love you, Christopher. Thank you for taking such good care of Juana. Thank you again for sharing all your beautiful wisdom, and we want to wish you continued success and blessings on all your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Janie.
And thank you everyone for supporting the mindfulness movement here at Rise Above TV. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels for more mindful content. Tune in next week to meet another individual who's tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.